Over 50 years ago, a high school teacher taught his class a lesson that they would never forget with a very controversial experiment. But before we get into all that, just make sure you like, subscribe, all the things that YouTube loves, and without wasting any more of your time, let's just get right on into it. In 1967, when Ron Jones, who was a 25-year-old social studies teacher in Palo Alto, California, set out to teach his 10th grade students about the events leading up to the Holocaust, he found out that many of them couldn't get over the question of how ordinary German citizens could have been coerced into complying with the regime. Jones, who by all accounts was a charismatic, well-loved, cool teacher, decided that the best way to teach his students how easily people can be swayed by fearsome leaders or swept up by ideologies was to just basically demonstrate it on them. He told them that we're going to do an experiment, a non-threatening experiment. His words exactly, basically. He told them, and this is all according to one of his former students, apparently he began acting more stern than usual, and he unveiled a new set of rules by which he expected that they'd abide in the classroom. Basically, he was being dead serious. At first, they kind of thought it was a joke. They were kind of like even having a little bit of fun with it, but they're going to end up coming to realize that this was no joke. He was not playing around at all. Jones says that he thought the experiment would only last a day, but when he arrived the following morning, all of the students were already sitting basically straight upright, telling him, "Good morning, Mr. Jones." They all said it in perfect unison, basically as they were told the day before. That was one of the rules. Most of the rules are not that important, but you just have to know that they were supposed to basically follow these rules completely and to a fault, basically. No exceptions. And basically, one of his students even remarks that Jones actually took a double take. He was like, "Oh my God," when he walked in, because he could not believe that these kids actually were listening to him like that. The first few days, the third wave was a game. We had lots of rules, we had lots of things we had to do, recalls one of Jones' former students in a 2011 documentary called The Lesson Plan, The Story of the Third Wave. Third Wave is also just the name of this entire social experiment that Jones was doing with his class.
And so we try this over and over again, just as a joke, as a game, but indeed it worked.
He timed us coming back into the chairs. We all sat down and everybody's bumping into each other and sitting down and sitting at attention like this and looking. And then Mr. Jones would look at the stopwatch and say, "I think we can do it faster."
And then the second episode was to come into the room with, try to be disciplined, try to move smoothly, try to move cleanly, try to get to your seat and sit down promptly. And then boom, everyone's sitting down.
Each time we came in, we did a little bit faster. And Mr. Jones was ready to move on. He said, "Okay, I think we've done it." And one of the students yelled out, "Mr. Jones, I think we can go quicker."
They included saluting one another with a Nazi-style hand gesture, standing to ask questions which had to be posed in 3 words or less, and working on a nebulous project to eliminate democracy, as they say. Unity was central to the Third Wave's ethos, and the group made banners bearing their logo, which read "Strength through involvement" and "Strength through discipline," which the students were also prohibited from gathering in groups larger than 2. Basically, they weren't able to meet in any types of groups. Even walking home from school, outside of school, you weren't allowed to be in groups of more than 2 people at all. Basically, they were just all doing some weird shit at this point. The students were told that if they went along with the experiment, they would get an A in the entire class. If they tried to overthrow Jones in any way, though, they would get an immediate F.
I remember clearly from him and classmates that if we followed what was asked of us, we'd all get A's.
He said that if we were active party members, we would get an A. If we were passive party members, we would get a C. If we tried a revolution and failed, we would get an F. But if our revolution succeeded, we would get an A.
Also, if they refused to participate in the experiment, they'd be banished to the library.
The other thing would have been to go to the library, which was, I thought you got diseases there. So I never went to the library, but I stayed in the class and did what I had to do for a grade. It was that simple.
Basically trying to extradite anybody that would not be cool with them, not going along with them. Perhaps most importantly, Jones told them about the participation in the third wave was it was all encompassing. The rules applied in class and at school, but also outside of school, even at home, basically. If you saw a fellow member and failed to salute them, you could be reported and tried a conviction for breaking the rules. Basically, this would mean that you'd be sent out of the class and to the library, and basically you'd be cast out of the third wave. You would not get an A, and basically this is all just, even if you just forgot, you're outside of school, you see your boy or whatever, and you forget to give this little salute, you're getting an F, you're probably getting actually kicked out of the entire experiment. Basically, they said that you never know who is going to come in the next morning and turn you in. All the lines of communications between students were broken down because of that.
he successfully broke down trust between the members of the class with informants and secret police, and he emphasized that with trials. In the morning, if you broke a rule, you could be put on trial, and that was very, very scary.
In a radio interview, a former student described the climate of fear that was quick to develop among students. Rumor on top of rumors, basically, they were saying. Trust between students, even those who had been friends, was quickly eroding. The heavy emphasis on unity was undercut by an atmosphere of suspicion that Jones' expectations had created.
During one of the weeks, I think it was the second week, I had passed one of my classmates in the hall who was in the third wave, and she had given me the third wave salute, which I did not return, not being part of the movement. And I could see her face just turn, just this look of shock. And she said to me, "Sherry, didn't return the salute." So I just told her, "Well, I'm not in the movement." And she said it with a tone of disbelief, "You're not? What?" And I reiterated it. And from that moment on, she wanted to have absolutely nothing to do with me. Anytime we passed in the hall, she would look the other way, no acknowledgement of my existence. And we had been at least casual friends. We chatted. We would always say hi when we saw each other previously.
Basically, none of these kids were even comfortable being friends anymore. They were just all scared that if they didn't follow the rules and comply completely, that somebody else in the class was going to snitch on them and that they would basically either be ostracized from the class. Kind of messed up at the end of the day, but by just the fourth day, Jones felt like he was losing control over the experiment. It had attracted the attention of other students, and basically the movement had grown out of control to the point where there was even an active resistance towards it. Jones basically decided that it had to end at this point. He announced to the students that the third wave was actually part of a national movement and asked them to attend a rally the following afternoon at which a presidential candidate would ended up being announced. All right, this is what he told the students. But when the students arrived at the auditorium the following day, Jones unveiled the screen that was playing basically just the black and white static. Basically, after a few minutes of just staring at that screen and the people getting all comfortable in the seats or whatever, Jones revealed to the students that they had actually been part of an experiment in planting the seeds of fascism. And basically just let them all know that you guys literally just fell for it. You know what I mean? They had all been questioning at the beginning how people could actually go along with this. And then he basically came out and basically just announced that, hey, you guys ended up falling for this. I planted the seeds of fascism in you. And he ended the meeting by playing a film about Nazism. Students described relief when the experiment was finally over. Some were horrified that they so neatly played out a transition to fascist thought and behavior, while others simply confirmed that their hunches about the creepy new classroom vibe were totally justified. This experiment went on to be fictionalized in the 1981 after-school special called The Wave and a 2008 German film by the same exact name. Jones' experiments had detractors, including some parents and fellow faculty who thought he was taking advantage of his power to unfairly indoctrinate a captive audience, rather than simply educating them about indoctrination. Basically, they were upset that he even did the experiment instead of just teaching them about it in the first place. Basically, he thought it would be easier if he just showed them how easy it was and kind of taught them the lesson that way. Whereas these people were like, why couldn't you have just taught them and not done this crazy experiment that might have messed up their mental health or whatever? And basically, so much so to the point where when Jones came up for tenure 2 years later, he was actually denied it. So kind of sucks for him, to be honest.
After the wave ended, my life basically I was cut off from what I thought would be my life. And I'd always planned that I would teach high school, I would coach basketball, I would teach history. I'd be so happy in high school. And the hope that exists in an American high school is something just to always be around. But I was never allowed to teach again following the wave.
But as a simulation of the normalization of fascism, the pleasure of membership, the creeping thrill of exclusion, and the comfort of discipline and rules, this experiment was unquestionably a success. It vividly illustrated the chilling conclusion theorist Hannah Arendt came to at the trial of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann, that most members of the SS were neither perverted nor sadistic, but rather terribly and terrifyingly normal. Basically, most of these people, they were just following orders, you know what I mean? It's not like they were just crazy and like, you know what I mean, sadistic and wanted to hurt people in general, but these people were basically just following orders, and most of them were just normal people, like, you know what I mean, everyday people you see. You know what I mean, NPCs at the end of the day, you know what I'm talking about. These people just going along with the flow, whatever they were told, they were just doing it. So hey, who knows? But anyways, if you made it this way, all this way through, appreciate you. Damn, it's been a long day, bro. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that. New videos coming out at least once a week. I'm trying for twice a week at this point, but anyways, appreciate you. Stay safe, stay dangerous, and get laid. So I'll catch you later.